So today's topic of conversation is this bad boy behind me. It's called Immortals of Avenum. It's a game that I heard about in passing when it came to a Mr. Beast video a couple weeks back. And I see this article and it kind of made me scratch my head. It's an article from PC Gamer that I kind of want to talk about because this is very interesting to me. Like, is this like sometimes topics like this? So let's get into this article. Let's talk about this and let's put some things in perspective. So let's get into it. EA and a studio. Wonder what studio that is, Queso. Reportedly investing $125 million, making a new single-player IP with zero microtransactions, no grind, and a shorter runtime. And guess what? Nobody bought it. You might say, Queso, what game is that? It's Immortals of Avenum. Launch went so poorly that almost half of the studio was laid off shortly thereafter. My question is why have I never heard of this game? Like I said, I heard about the game in passing in a Mr. Beast video probably about a month and a half ago. Or actually, it was probably a couple weeks ago. And that to me is like, that's just poor marketing. That's setting a game up for failure. So let's keep reading into this because it's going to make me scratch my head. A new report by IGN into the wider topic of industry layoffs, which are worse than ever before, contains a fascinating insight about one of last year's less successful AAA games. I can't speak today. Here, everybody, take a sip of your coffee. Immortals of Avenum was a debut title from Ascension Studios. So I see in this article they mention Ascension Studios quite a bit. And I'm like, let me take a look into who exactly Ascension Studios is. And this is actually kind of interesting. I pulled up their Wikipedia page. And Ascension Studios was founded by former EA and Sledgehammer Games creative director Brett Robinson. And then on top of that, you had basically the entire staff from Telltale Games, which went bankrupt in 2018. And guess when Ascension Studios was founded? 2018. On this project, there's about, as of right now, it says that there's 100 plus employees working at this place. And let me tell you, if you don't know who Sledgehammer Games are, they are one of the studios that makes some of the best Call of Duty games there is. Okay. And if you don't know who Telltale Games are, it's a company that makes amazing, and I mean amazing narrative-driven stories. Whether it's The Wolf Among Us or the Batman game. On top of that, they won awards for their Walking Dead titles that they have. So this, by no stretch of the imagination, is not a studio filled with just a bunch of random people. No, it's filled with people that know how to make a story. Let's continue. Released on Steam and consoles back in August 2022, came out to a mixed reviews and largely sank without trace. PCG's review called it a fun, magical FPS that fails to cast any spells on the way to a 68% score. Okay? Like I said, I still didn't hear anything about it. The thing is, EA had invested big in this game, and Ascension had some firm ideas about what the gameplay public might want from it. Immortals of Avalon have a launch party where developers were asking higher-ups about how the game's sales looked, and were met with evasive answers. Let me tell you, when you get evasive answers, those are answers you don't want to hear. Shortly afterwards, citing the game's underperformance, almost half of the studios laid off around 50 total people. Damn. It really hurts my heart to hear stuff like that. All right, at a higher level, Immortals was massively overscoped for a studio's debut project. No, it's not. I mean, granted, Ascension is a massively new studio. But with the talent they have on board, creative director from Sledgehammer and EA, former creative director of those two games. And then on top of that, a co-founder and former president of private equity software investor Vista Equity Partners of Brian Sheth. And then on top of that, the staff from Telltale. This game should have been a banger. A banger. Anyways, said one of the Ascension employees, the development cost was around $85 million, and I think EA kicked in another $40 million for marketing and distribution. Well, it makes me wonder how much they spent on that little ad, the little ad they had in the Mr. Beast video. I guarantee you it was probably the whole $40 million. Sure, there was some serious talent on the development team. That's what I'm saying. But trying to make a AAA single-player shooter in today's market was truly an awful idea, especially since it's a new IP, was also trying to leverage Unreal Engine 5. And I've heard that Unreal Engine 5 is actually really hard to work with. I don't know. I'm not a developer. I don't know how to program. But that's what I've heard from friends of mine. What ends up launching was a bloated, repetitive campaign that was far too long. It makes me wonder how long said campaign was. If this guy is saying that it was a bloated campaign and it was far too long. Anyways, let's continue reading. The game sold to a tiny fraction of what was predicted, and while the blame for several layoffs like this is often laid on the doors of the publisher, EA in this case, which 100% it's going to be EA's fault. And I think I know why. Some of those who worked on the title look back on regrets in the style of game they made. Another Ascension employee still with the company referred to a popular game industry X post that became something of a meme. I want a shorter game with worse graphics made by people who are paid more to work less, and I'm not kidding. This is the shit part. Is this right here? So a friend of mine always tells me that indie games are ruining the market. And 100%, indie games are not ruining the market by any means. Indie games, if anything, is pushing the market forward. Why? Hey, what's up, Emma? Because indie games take less time to develop with less people. Now, granted, I do hear complaints that, graphics aren't the greatest. I don't care about graphics. If you produce a great story and great mechanics, I can forgive graphics. Case in point would have to be Lethal Company. You got less than 5 people working on that game. I think it's one guy. And he just was like, all right, have at it. The sole blame for this game's failure has to be EA. Because you spent $40 million on, what would they say? Marketing and distribution. Like, how much of that money went towards distribution? How much of it went towards marketing? Because now, granted, like I said, I saw this article and I'm like, man, why does that name sound familiar? And then when I looked it up, it's like, it was an ad in a Mr. Beast video. I don't know anything else about the game. I just know it was in a Mr. Beast video. Well, Ascension staff reckoned that was what they were doing with Immortals of an Avenal. It's not a sequel or a remake, says the employee. It doesn't take 400 hours to beat. It has 0 microtransactions, no pointless open world grinding, although not everyone loved it. Its reviews pretty well, currently sitting at 74 on OpenCritic and mostly positive on Steam. No one bought it. Like I said, I never heard about it. And I hate to say it, but I feel like EA kind of set this game up for failure. And by that meaning, I feel like they're trying to be like, hey, you remember that last, new IP that we tried, intellectual property, if anybody's wondering what IP stands for. You'd be surprised. It failed. And this is just a way for them to be like, well, since that failed, we're not going to make no new IPs. We're going to continue to crank out the old, random crap that we continue to push out. We're going to continue to push out, broken games. We're going to continue this, continue that. And that's a problem with a lot of these studios is that they do stuff like this. People will doubtless have strong opinions on whether Immortals of Avalon does indeed tick all the boxes, but the last line in a Stark in... Anyways, and it does make you think about how easy layoffs like these are to put at the door of the money man, when really, with someone like this, it's a cold, hard economics. It's 100% business. It 100% is business. And that's the shitty part is I'm done with this article. And that's the terrible part is when games don't sell well, when marketing's down, when you can't push it out, and they quote unquote spent all this money on marketing, right? I never even heard of the game, especially for the couple months that it came out. Like first couple months it was out. And the reason why there's poor sales is, you're pushing a game, and I love narrative driven games. I love first person shooters. I love games where I can play by myself, but at the same token, I do love games that I can play with my friends. It makes me wonder how good this game is. And I kind of want to buy it to check it out because there's no microtransactions, none of the pointless missions, none of these pointless grinds. It's just a good old fashioned story. So who knows? I might go and buy it because right now I see it's 50% off over on the PlayStation Network. I don't know if it's on sale over at on Steam. I'll have to go check it out. But that's just my 2 cents. I feel 100% that EA set this game up to be DOA as soon as it came out, just so they can prove a point and be like, yeah, it didn't work, you guys. We're never doing this again. It's just one of those things. Anyways, you guys, don't forget to mash that like button. Comment down below. How do you feel about this? Do you miss old school games where narrative driven, where there's no microtransactions, no pointless grinds? Or do you really, really like those games where you could just sink hours into it, mindless, doing nothing? Anyways, you guys, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye!